If you've spent any time in the gaming landscape over the last few years, you know that the open world has become a bit of a checklist. We've grown used to being the chosen ones, guided by golden wind or glowing quest markers, essentially being treated like VIPs in our own stories. Then there is Outward 2. Developed by the relentless team at 9 Dot Studio, this sequel, which is currently the talk of the town as we approach its summer 2026 launch, doesn't just refuse to hold your hand. It looks at your hand and tells you to go find a map and a compass if you want to know where you're going. The beauty of Outward 2 lies in its commitment to the hobo-to-hero pipeline. You aren't a dragon slayer or a legendary wraith. You are an ordinary person who probably forgot to pack enough water for a 3-day hike. Set 50 years after the original, the world of Aurai feels more lived in and dangerously beautiful than ever. The production jump is immediately apparent. The jank that gave the first game its cult charm has been smoothed into a professional, atmospheric polish. But the soul of the game remains the same. It is a simulation of adventure in its purest, most punishing form. In most RPGs, your inventory is a bottomless pit of loot. In Outward 2, your inventory is your life support system. The iconic backpack returns, and it still dictates how you live and die. There is a specific meditative rhythm to preparing for a journey. You spend 20 minutes in a town like Haboob, checking your rations, making sure your water skin is full, and debating if you have room for a spare lantern. When you finally step out into the wilds of Belogale, the stakes are real. Because there are no markers on your map, you have to actually look at the horizon, identify a jagged peak or a crumbling tower, and navigate like a real explorer. It transforms the world from a playground into a puzzle. To truly understand the DNA of Outward 2, you have to accept a hard truth. It doesn't care about your feelings. In most modern RPGs, elements are built to make you feel like a god in training. You kill a few goblins, a golden bar fills up at the bottom of the screen, and suddenly you're 5% stronger. Outward 2 spits on that concept. There is no traditional experience point system here. You don't level up by grinding mobs. Instead, your progression is measured by the weight of your coin purse and the knowledge you've scavenged from the corners of the world. In Outward 2, progression is entirely horizontal and manual. If you want to become a master swordsman, you don't just put points into a strength stat. You have to physically trek across a desert to find a specific hermit who knows how to parry, and then you have to pay him a small fortune to teach you the move. This changes the RPG loop from kill to grow, to explore to learn. The breakthrough points system returns, but with much more nuance. You are given a very limited number of these points, which act as the locks to the upper tiers of skill trees. Because you can only fully commit to 3 distinct disciplines, your character build becomes a deeply personal manifesto. Are you a spell sword who sacrifices half their health for mana? Or are you a heavy armored tank who carries a literal cannon on their back? These choices aren't just numbers on a screen. They dictate exactly how you will have to survive the next blizzard or bandit ambush. The survival mechanics have evolved from chores into a natural part of the narrative. In the first game, managing hunger and thirst could sometimes feel like a countdown timer. Here, it feels like environmental storytelling. If you're heading into the snowy north, you don't just wear warm clothes because of a stat. You do it because you can see your character shivering and their stamina pool shrinking. You feel the environment pushing back against you, and when you finally find a safe spot to pitch a tent and start a fire, the sense of relief is more satisfying than any level-up screen. The The survival mechanics in Outward 2 aren't just extra chores tacked onto a fantasy game. They are the foundation of every decision you make. Most games treat hunger and thirst like a minor annoyance. Here, they are the primary antagonists. If you don't eat, your maximum stamina begins to wither away, leaving you winded after 2 swings of a mace. If you don't sleep, your burnt mana and stamina pools won't recover, turning you into a walking corpse. Then there's the temperature system, which has been significantly refined for the sequel. The environment is a living, breathing predator. Walking into the Chersonese during winter without a thick fur coat isn't just a bad idea. It's a death sentence. You'll watch your character's breath fog up the screen as the hypothermia meter ticks up. You find yourself desperately looking for a sheltered rock to start a fire, not because a quest told you to, but because you can literally see your life force slipping away. We have to talk about the backpack, because in Outward 2, it is arguably more important than your weapon. Your bag has its own physics and its own set of rules. A larger backpack lets you carry more loot and survival gear, but it makes your dodge roll slow and clumsy. This leads to the most iconic tactical decision in the game: the bag drop. When a fight starts, your first instinct, honed by the first game, is to hit the hotkey to drop your pack. You suddenly become light, agile, and ready to duel. But there's a catch. If the fight goes south and you have to run for your life, you might leave your bag behind. Imagine standing in the middle of a dark forest at night, having escaped a pack of wolves, only to realize your lantern, your food, and your bedroll are still sitting in a pile 3 miles back. That isn't a failed state. That is the game's narrative at its peak. Perhaps the most hardcore RPG element is the map. Outward 2 refuses to show your character's position on the map. There is no "you are here" icon and no glowing dotted line to follow. You have a map and you have a compass. To figure out where you are, you have to look at the world. You see a giant purple mountain to the north? Okay. Locate the mountain on the map. You see a lighthouse to the west? Great. You're somewhere in the middle. This turns every journey into a genuine expedition. When you finally reach a destination, you feel a sense of geographical triumph that no fast travel button could ever replicate. You didn't just arrive, you conquered the distance. Magic, too, remains one of the most unique systems in the genre. You don't just cast a fireball by pressing a button. You perform a ritual. You might have to drop a sigil on the ground, stand within its circle, and then use a spark to ignite the air. It's blue-collar magic. It takes work, it takes preparation, and it makes you feel like a scholar of the arcane rather than a human machine gun. In most RPGs, magic is a superpower. You find a staff, you click a button, and a lightning bolt erases your problems. In Outward 2, magic is more like high-stakes chemistry. It is cumbersome. It is expensive. And if you aren't careful, it's a very fast way to get yourself killed. It is perhaps the most GDR role-playing magic system in existence, because it demands that you play the role of a scholar who has actually studied the arcane, rather than a superhero who just happened to find a spellbook. Before you can cast a single spark, you have to find a ley line, usually hidden in the heart of a dangerous mountain or a forgotten ruin. In Outward 2, gaining mana isn't a level-up bonus, it's a transaction. To gain mana, you must permanently burn a portion of your maximum health and stamina. It's a brutal trade-off. Do you give up 20 points of HP for a tiny mana pool? Or do you sacrifice half your physical vitality to become a powerhouse mage? This decision is the ultimate GDR moment, because it fundamentally changes how you play. A mage with a huge mana pool is a glass cannon. in the literal sense. One well-placed arrow will end you because you traded your physical toughness for spiritual energy. Once you have mana, you'll realize that spells aren't actually spells, they are triggers. This is where the sequel really deepens the complexity. The most powerful magic in Aurai is sigil magic, and it works on a logic of combinations. Imagine you want to throw a fireball. In Outward 2, you can't just do that. First, you have to carry a supply of firestones, which have weight and cost money. You consume a stone to cast a fire sigil on the ground. Now, you have a glowing orange circle at your feet. Only while standing inside that circle do your other minor abilities. Spark plus fire sigil equals a massive fireball. Flint and steel plus fire sigil equals a localized fire blast. This creates a tower defense style of combat. You aren't running and gunning. You are choosing a spot, setting up your ritual space, and forcing the enemy to fight you on your terms. If the enemy moves out of your circle, your expensive firestone was wasted. It makes every combat encounter feel like a tactical puzzle. The sequel introduces a more aggressive corruption mechanic, tied to the arcane. In the world of Outward 2, the more you tap into the ley lines, the more the world starts to notice you. Using heavy magic in certain areas can cause your character to become corrupted. At first, this might actually make your spells stronger, a tempting GDR devil's bargain. But eventually, it will start to rot your physical stats or attract ethereal predators that can smell the mana on your breath. It reinforces the game's core theme. Nothing is free. You are immortal, playing with the fundamental forces of the universe. Perhaps the most outward thing about Outward 2 is how it handles defeat. There is still no traditional game over screen. If you lose a fight to a group of bandits, you don't reload a save. Maybe you were dragged to their camp as a slave and have to plot an escape. Maybe a mysterious traveler found you and dragged you to safety, but your backpack and all your expensive gear is still sitting in the dirt 5 miles away. This creates a continuous, unbroken story where your failures are just as important as your victories. It removes the safety net and forces you to live with the consequences of your choices, making every successful hunt or completed quest feel like a monumental achievement. As we look at the state of RPGs in 2026, Outward 2 stands as a defiant middle finger to the streamlined experience. It is a game for the person who wants to get lost, who wants to feel the weight of their gear, and who wants to earn every single inch of progress. It's more beautiful, more responsive, and more ambitious than the first, but it hasn't lost that core DNA that makes you feel like a tiny speck in a massive, indifferent world. If you want to feel like a hero, play something else. If you want to feel like an adventurer, this is your game. And if you like co-op games, this is the right title to play with your friend. If you liked this video, please leave a like and let me know what you think of this game down in the comments. I'm especially curious to hear from the veterans of the first game. Does the new magic system sound like the upgrade you were hoping for? Or are you going to miss the old jank? And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel to see more content like this as we dive deeper into the biggest releases of the year.